They say it's normal to be mean to your crush, but Akitiru never believed that theory. These thoughts fill Akitiru's mind as he enters the dorm, but before he can even reach his room, a loud noise echoes from inside. Standing outside, he shakes in irritation, taking a deep breath to keep himself composed. Inside is none other than Iroha singing her heart out. She sprawled comfortably, humming and belting out the lyrics to a song, which only fuels Akitiru's growing frustration. Then Akitiru finally snaps. He storms into his room and yanks the power cord from the outlet, cutting off the music instantly. Iroha turns around, completely unfazed, and greets him cheerfully before lecturing him about how rude it is to barge into someone's room uninvited. Her smugness only irritates him further, as this is his room and she's the one trespassing. He tells her to keep her volume down before she disturbs the other residents and points to her headphones as a hint. Instead of complying, Iroha teases him maliciously, implying that he wants to touch her. Akitiru shuts her down coldly, stating he has no interest in her antics. Her non-stop chatter only makes him feel sick. Then Iroha accuses him of trying to catch her while changing, even joking that she'll call the police. In reality, Akitiru is the one who should be calling them because she broke into his room after all. He considers it for a moment but realizes that no one would believe him over her. She plays the victim too well. Iroha loves asserting her dominance over Akitiru. At one point, she even lies flat on his bed, deliberately emphasizing her chest. Akitiru looks away immediately, but she has hidden the dorm key between her chest. It's true he gave her the key, but that doesn't mean she can just walk in whenever she pleases. She pushes further, teasing that once he drives her away, he'll end up fantasizing about her. This finally makes Akitiru snap, so he grabs a spray bottle and splashes water on her face. They launch into another argument. Iroha insists that she's basically like his little sister since she's his friend's sibling, but Akitiru rejects that notion entirely, calling her a stranger. She continues to press his buttons, teasing him at every opportunity. Just then, Akitiru's phone rings. It's his uncle. He glares at Iroha, warning her not to mess around because his future depends on this call. She reluctantly promises to behave. His uncle, Makoto, is the president of HPW, a major entertainment company. Makoto calls to talk about Akitiru's bold application to the company without taking the proper exam. He isn't exactly impressed by the move, but since Akitiru is his nephew, he's willing to make it work under certain conditions. His tone suddenly turns serious as he asks Akitiru if he has a girlfriend, catching both Akitiru and Iroha completely off guard. Immediately, Iroha's eyes light up with mischief, clearly coming up with a scheme. Akitiru notices this and warns her to stop whatever she's plotting, but she ignores him. Instead, she moves closer and starts making strange noises, ensuring Makoto hears her presence on the call. Panicking, Akitiru quickly lies and says it's just a cat he adopted. Unfortunately for him, when Makoto casually asks questions about the cat, Akitiru can't answer any of them, making the situation even more suspicious. Iroha doesn't back down and continues to push Akitiru further, making him mutter curses under his breath and confusing Makoto. Desperate to keep up his lie, Akitiru pretends that the cat is attacking him to make the situation sound believable. Eventually, Makoto starts to piece things together and assumes Akitiru has a girlfriend. Panicked, Akitiru quickly denies it and struggles to shove Iroha away. Fortunately, Makoto seems pleased to hear he doesn't have a girlfriend and tells him he'll explain the details of his application soon. After their conversation, Iroha rolls around on Akitiru's bed, complaining that she's thirsty. With a sigh, Akitiru tells her to get herself a drink, and she cheerfully skips off, leaving him frustrated. The next day, during his vacant period, Akitiru spends his time writing in his notebook, reflecting on life and death and his vow to use every minute to secure a better future. As the subject ends, Akitiru's best friend, Ozuma, slumps into his chair, exhausted. Luckily, Akitiru took notes for him, and Ozuma gratefully thanks him. To return the favor, Ozuma invites Akitiru to have some enmitsu after class. Akitiru is always amazed by how great Ozuma is as a person, but Ozuma turns the compliment back at him. He points out that Akitiru has a genuinely good heart, and that's what makes him who he is. Even though Akitiru insists that everything he does is calculated, Ozuma admires how he always thinks of others too, including him and his sister Iroha. Ozuma casually assumes that Iroha barged into Akitiru's place again, and when Akitiru confirms it, Ozuma teases that maybe she has a crush on him. Akitiru disagrees, believing Iroha just likes to mess around. Ozuma argues that it could be her way of showing affection, but Akitiru stands firm in his belief, and if she truly liked him, there'd be no reason to torment him so much. Before their conversation can go further, a fiery teacher enters the room, warning the students not to waste her time. Everyone quickly rises from their slouched positions, and just like that, homeroom begins. After class ends, a classmate rushes up to Akitiru, telling him that a cute first-year girl is looking for him. Sure enough, Iroha is waiting by the door. When confronted, she tries to act sweet and composed, but Akitiru bluntly tells her to drop the act. Instead of backing down, Iroha pretends not to understand and continues to act wholesome in front of everyone, making Akitiru look like the bad guy. She invites him to walk home together, but when Akitiru turns to grab his things, she adds that she wants to be alone with him, excluding Ozuma. This startles Akitiru, and he reacts loudly. Iroha seizes the moment, acting cute and declaring they're a couple. The entire class gasps, including Akitiru, but she doesn't stop. She dramatically sheds fake tears, fully committing to her act and leaving Akitiru flustered. Ozuma suddenly arrives, curious about what's going on. Iroha immediately tells him that she and Akitiru are going out alone, which makes Akitiru panic even more. He quickly grabs her by the hand and drags her away for a serious talk. Face to face, Iroha keeps insisting that they're together, even though it's obviously not true. She reveals her motive came from the earlier phone call, as she figured he might need a girlfriend to impress his uncle. She smugly declares that she's out of his league, so it's basically his win. But Akitiru isn't amused at all. He sternly tells her not to interfere because his future is at stake. Before he can walk away, Iroha suddenly hugs him from behind. She teases him to notice her, saying the future doesn't matter and what matters is the present. With tears in her eyes, she admits she cares about him deeply and just wants them to stay close forever. For a moment, Akitiru is taken aback, thinking she's being sincere. His guard softens, but just as he's about to believe her, Iroha breaks into a mischievous laugh, revealing it was all an act. She teases him for falling for her act and even jokes about how much she wanted to confess like that. Akitiru is too flustered to respond, his face heating up as she notices his red ears and assumes he's embarrassed. He bursts out in anger, declaring that he'll never believe anything she says ever again. Enraged, Akitiru chases after Iroha down the stairs, but she escapes before he can catch her. Later, he meets his uncle Makoto at a cafe to discuss his application to HPW. Makoto mentions that someone else will be joining them but wants to talk to Akitiru privately first. He brings up the fact that Akitiru has already released a game. Akitiru clarifies that it was a team effort with 5 members in total, Ozuma as the programmer and Akitiru serving as both producer and director. Together with 3 other members, they formed the Fifth Floor Alliance. He admits that the game's success wouldn't have been possible without his team. Makoto notes that the industry has already started talking about their sudden rise, acknowledging their impressive accomplishment. He admits that even he couldn't have done something like that when he was in school, so Akitiru deserves the popularity. Before diving deeper into the topic, Makoto encourages Akitiru to order something first. Akitiru assumes the person joining them might be a manager or representative, so he brings his proposal, ready to make a good impression. As Makoto gives their order, he casually flirts with the waitress, even asking her out for dinner despite her clearly being at work. Akitiru is shocked by his uncle's boldness and calls him out, but Makoto confidently says he knows how to leave a lasting impression on girls, and seeing the waitress's expression confirms it. Flustered, Akitiru excuses himself to the bathroom to calm down. He closes his eyes to forget what he just saw, so he fails to notice the sign saying the lock is broken. He opens the door without thinking and accidentally walks in on Mashiro, who's still sitting on the toilet. Before he can react, Mashiro punches him in embarrassment. Meanwhile, at Akitiru's office, Iroha is bored since he's not around to mess with. A colleague asks her about their relationship, but she firmly says there's nothing going on. Back at the cafe, Akitiru discovers that Mashiro is actually the other person his uncle invited. She's his cousin, Makoto's daughter, and they used to play together as kids, though he didn't recognize her at all now that they're grown up. Makoto then reveals his plan. He wants Akitiru to act as Mashiro's fake boyfriend in exchange for pushing through his application to HPW, leaving Akitiru completely stunned. Mashiro finds the idea ridiculous, but Makoto is completely serious. He explains that he's worried about her transferring from an all-girls school to a co-ed one, so he wants someone to watch over her. Despite his reasoning, Mashiro firmly rejects his plan. Curious, Akitiru asks why she needs to transfer, but Mashiro refuses to let him know, prompting Makoto to hold back the full story. The only detail Makoto reveals is that Mashiro barely attended high school and she's been a truant. Surprisingly, Akitiru doesn't pry in further. For him, that single fact is enough to understand their concern, and he doesn't dwell on her past. Since the condition is tied to his team's employment at HPW, Akitiru decides to accept the arrangement. Mashiro, though clearly reluctant, eventually agrees as well, under the strict condition that their relationship will remain entirely fake. With the deal sealed, Akitiru extends his hand to Mashiro, but she refuses to shake it, still holding a grudge over their awkward bathroom encounter. Watching the exchange, Makoto smiles, convinced they'll get along, though both of them strongly disagree. But before leaving, Makoto reminds Akitiru that as Mashiro's fake boyfriend, any real romantic moves are strictly forbidden. Akitiru doesn't see this as a problem, considering Mashiro clearly dislikes him anyway. Reflecting on everything, he still can't understand why people say being mean to someone means they are romantically interested. He's surrounded by aggressive girls after all. Nonetheless, his fake boyfriend job starts tomorrow. The next day, Akitiru is greeted by Irova, who immediately senses that something's off. She tries to pry, guessing that his mood has something to do with the meeting. He refuses to tell her, but she remains persistent and follows him. Neither of them notices Sumire leading Mashiro around. Once classes begin, Mashiro is asked to introduce herself to Akitiru's class. Out of nervousness, she blurts out that she's also dating Akitiru. The class erupts with whispers, wondering why someone like her would waste her looks on a nobody like him. Suzuki, one of the boys, asks how they met, and Mashiro accidentally says they met in the bathroom. Akitiru inwardly panics, realizing how bad that makes him look. When Mashiro takes the seat next to him, he tries to act friendly, but she immediately turns cold, reminding him that she hasn't forgiven him. Akitiru tries to reason with her, saying they both need to act friendly if their story is to be believable. Mashiro disagrees, insisting that as long as their stories line up, there's no need for them to be close. Ozuma taps Akitiru on the shoulder, asking why he never mentioned having a girlfriend. Akitiru apologizes for keeping secrets but hints that he and Mashiro aren't actually dating. During lunch, Akitiru explains his situation with Mashiro in detail. Ozuma teases him, saying his life sounds like a romantic comedy. Akitiru counters that Ozuma would make a better protagonist, given his personality and the fact that he has a little sister, though Iroha's personality doesn't exactly fit the trope. Ozuma says it's because Iroha already loves Akitiru. Akitiru flatly denies the idea, but Ozuma just smiles and excuses himself to buy lunch. Suzuki approaches Akitiru, asking how he managed to get a girlfriend when everyone thought he was already dating Iroha. Feeling Mashiro's icy glare, Akitiru quickly clarifies that Iroma is Ozuma's little sister, then changes the topic to Suzuki's crush on their teacher, who's rumored to like macho guys. Hearing that, Suzuki gets fired up and storms out of the classroom. Akitiru, still feeling Mashiro's cold stare, sighs and asks if she has a problem. Mashiro demands that Akitiru bring her rice balls filled with seafood, declaring that since they're dating, it's his duty to serve her. She even threatens that if he refuses, she'll call off their fake relationship. Reluctantly, Akitiru does as he's told and returns with 2 rice balls and a drink for her. He sits back down and quietly eats a piece of bread he bought for himself. He briefly wonders if she might be jealous after overhearing his conversation about Irova, but dismisses the thought since Mashiro clearly hates him. Classes resume as Sumire steps to the front of the room, asking the students if they've all completed their homework. One boy raises his hand and admits that he forgot, prompting Sumire's anger. She launches into a lecture about responsibility, warning them that without discipline, they're nothing more than scum. The student tries to explain himself, but Sumire cuts him off, though she eventually lets it slide on the condition that he promises to do better. Akitiru glances at Mashiro and notices how intently she's watching Sumire. He notes that Sumire might not be the ideal homeroom teacher for a transfer student. When class ends, Sumire pauses at the door to call out Akitiru. She instructs him to meet her in the counseling room to discuss an assignment. Akitiru calmly agrees, but as soon as Sumire leaves, several boys approach him in concern, wondering how he can stay so composed when everyone knows how terrifying she is. He simply replies that she's not going to kill him, then heads for the counseling room. When he arrives, he's signaled to enter, only to be greeted by the sight of a torture chamber. He takes a seat at the center, and almost instantly, Sumire's demeanor changes. She bows to the ground, nervously asking for his forgiveness. Akitiru's attitude shifts as well. He suddenly seems far more confident than before. Sumire stammers through excuses about being overwhelmed with lesson plans and teaching duties. Akitiru pulls out his phone and shows her the notifications he received about her online activity, revealing that she's been doing other things instead of working. Sumire's teaching identity is Shibuku Murasaki. In class, she's feared as the strict, venomous queen, but to Akitiru and the rest of the Fifth Avenue Alliance, she's simply Sumire, their illustrator who always struggles to meet her deadlines. Akitiru points out Sumire's harsh words in class earlier, which visibly hurt her pride. She explains that her strict teacher persona isn't who she really is, since it's all just part of the act she plays in front of her students. Sighing, Akitiru decides to change the subject and asks about her progress so far. Sumire grows nervous and shows him her tablet, revealing a completely blank page. Irritated, Akitiru tries to throw her into one of the torture machines, then tugs on her ponytail as she struggles to get away. Sumire insists that she's suffering from artist block. Letting go of her hair, Akitiru sighs and tells her she should come to him if she was having trouble. Sumire protests, saying that doing so would ruin her cool image. Clearly losing patience, Akitiru presses a few pressure points on her shoulder in frustration. Once he releases her, he mutters that he never imagined Sumire could be so hopeless. He recalls the first time they met. He was scouting for potential illustrators at a manga convention but hadn't found anyone. Just as he was about to give up, he noticed a comic depicting a taboo romance. The artwork was so detailed that it immediately caught his attention. When he approached the artist to ask if she'd join his project, she turned around, and to his shock, he realized it was his homeroom teacher. That was when Akitiru decided to use what he knew about her secret to keep her working for him. Sumire still wishes that the encounter had happened differently, as it gave Akitiru the leverage to control her reputation as a reliable teacher. Akitiru tells her it's her own fault, and now that she's part of his team, she'd better start making drafts for the game. Sumire groans that she still can't draw because of her artist block. Akitiru suggests that they just sleep on it, but Sumire misunderstands and blurts out that she doesn't like boys 15 years and older. Akitiru scolds her for even thinking that way and tells her to eat something to get her blood flowing so she can focus on work. He also grants her a half-day extension, which immediately lifts her mood. Before he leaves, Sumire asks about his real relationship with Mashiro. Akitiru admits that it's a fake relationship he accepted to help them gain support from his uncle's company. Sumire then reveals that the school has special instructions on how to handle Mashiro's case. Akitiru immediately guesses that it's because she's a shut-in. Akitiru admits that that's all he knows, so Sumire explains that Mashiro was bullied at her previous school. Some of her classmates had discovered a secret she was keeping and used it to hold power over her. Sumire admits she doesn't know what the secret is, but she asks Akitiru to help make Mashiro's school life as comfortable as possible. She says she wants Mashiro to genuinely enjoy her time here, and she's confident Akitiru can make that happen. Akitiru brushes off the praise, but Sumire insists he should take the compliment, reminding him that both she and Ozuma are also grateful for the impact he's had on their lives. Flatly, Akitiru tells her that flattery won't earn her another deadline extension. Afterward, Akitiru returns to the classroom and asks Mashiro if she'd like to walk home together. Mashiro, however, coldly tells him to stay away from her. Whispers spread quickly, with some teasing that Mashiro must be its tsundere, and that the two of them act like a married couple. Hearing the comments, Mashiro grows flustered and bolts from the room. Akitiru watches her leave, wondering why she acts so cold toward him. Ozuma, noticing his expression, remarks that he doesn't think Mashiro is a bad person at all. Akitiru agrees but says she should at least let him get close enough to protect her. He asks Ozuma for advice, but Ozuma admits that Akitiru has a tough case, given that Mashiro already views him negatively. Alone in the shoe locker area, Akitiru suddenly feels a pair of arms wrapped tightly around him from behind. A familiar, irritating voice follows, and he immediately recognizes it as Iroha. He asks her to get off, but she insists that she's simply showing him kindness by keeping him company. Pressing herself closer, Iroha teases that if he really wants her to let go, the softness he's feeling will disappear. It's only then that Akitiru realizes her chest is pressing against his back. To make matters worse, Akitiru quickly realizes that something feels off, and Iroha confirms his suspicion. She admits that she isn't wearing underwear. She explains that she recently grew a little, making her undergarments too tight. Even her school uniform had become so snug that some of the buttons popped off, meaning that if she pulled away from him now, she'd end up exposed. Akitiru has a hard time believing her, but the slim chance she might be telling the truth keeps him from pushing her off. If she's lying, he'll just look like a fool. But if she's not, forcing her away could spell disaster, not only for his friendship with Ozuma, but also for their group's deal with his uncle's company. After all, if anyone sees them like this, people will assume he's cheating on Mashiro with Iroha. Deciding to minimize the damage, Akitiru quickly hooks his arms around Iroha's legs, shifting her into a piggyback position. Iroha panics as Akitiru taunts her, trying to get her to admit she was lying, but she stubbornly refuses. Akitiru bolts out of the school, taking a side route to avoid being seen. Iroha grows flustered from the sudden dash and blurts out that she surrenders, prompting Akitiru to finally stop. He doesn't let her down immediately, making her apologize for lying just to tease him. When he finally drops her, he scolds her for her behavior, only to realize she was partially telling the truth about not having underwear on. They end up walking home together, and Akitiru asks if she has any advice on befriending a difficult girl. Iroha pales, assuming he finally has a crush, but Akitiru quickly corrects her and explains the situation with Mashiro. He clarifies that his efforts are mainly for his own benefit, but Iroha insists that deep down he genuinely wants to be friends with Mashiro. With a grin, she tells him to leave it to her, and that she'll teach him how to win over Mashiro. The next day, Akitiru shows up at school wearing a dog collar and offers to carry Mashiro's bag. During lunch, he serves her a warm meal. After class, he even offers to give her a piggyback ride. All his antics only irritate Mashiro. She grabs his leash and drags him to the stairwell to demand an explanation. Thinking it's some sort of prank, she's annoyed when Akitiru admits that he also feels ridiculous, since it's the kind of scheme Iroha would talk him into. He admits he knew it probably wouldn't work, which only frustrates Mashiro more. She wonders aloud if he dislikes her that much. Before Akitiru can respond, Iroha appears and teases them for being lovey-dovey. Mashiro asks who she is, so Iroha cheerfully declares that she's the mastermind behind everything. As Mashiro watches their easy banter, she can't help but notice just how close the two seem. Suddenly, Mashiro announces that she's leaving and snaps at them to stop bothering her. Later, as Akitiru and Iroha arrive home, they're shocked to find Mashiro in their apartment complex. Mashiro accuses them of stalking her, but they quickly explain that they all happen to live in the same building. Iroha cheerfully adds that she's Akitiru's sister in spirit, since her brother is his best friend. Mashiro misinterprets and assumes they all live together, prompting Akitiru to clarify that everyone actually resides on the same floor. Sumire is right next to Ozuma, and Iroha has her own apartment. At the mention of Sumire, Mashiro suddenly lashes out, saying she hates that they all live so close before slamming her door shut. Akitiru approaches her door and confidently declares that he will meddle in her life. Akitiru calls a meeting with his group in his room. He tells them that he wants to throw a welcome party for Mashiro to celebrate her moving into their apartment building. He's already set the date for Friday at 8 p.m., though Iroha worries that Mashiro might not show up. Akitiru gives her a confident smile, saying that all they need to do is bother her enough and that he already has a plan in mind. Before his plans, the Fifth Floor Alliance enjoys a small party of their own to celebrate completing a project deadline. Sumire drinks more than usual, prompting Akitiru to scold her for being the one who's always late with her submissions. Akitiru notices that Iroha seems unusually docile and polite. Iroha explains that she feels a little out of place since she's not officially part of their team, though she's grateful to be included in the celebration. Akitiru gives her an uneasy look, realizing that when Iroha is polite, it throws him off, especially since she's usually a handful. Ozuma compliments Akitiru's cooking, especially the roast beef he prepared. In turn, Akitiru praises Ozuma's technical skills, crediting his engineering setup for allowing their files to upload much faster and helping them meet the deadline on time. Ozuma humbly dismisses the compliment, saying he doesn't think he's particularly talented and that what he does is just simple stuff. He then admits that the only reason he's able to make use of his skills is because Akitiru created the opportunity for him in the first place. So to him, Akitiru is the one who's truly talented. Iroha smiles warmly as she watches the two interact. Then Ozuma suddenly notices that Namako isn't around. Akitiru explains that Namako couldn't join them because of a personal deadline. Namako is their scenario writer. Akitiru first reached out through a fan letter inviting Namako to join their game project and was completely shocked when Namako actually replied and agreed. They haven't met in person yet, but from their online chats, Namako seems professional, reliable, and easy to talk to, unlike another adult Akitiru knows. Sumire, realizing he's talking about her, drunkenly protests. Akitiru brushes her off, saying they're only talking about Namako. When he sees how drunk she is, he asks what she's been drinking, and Iroha shows him the bottle Sumire used to mix drinks. Sumire suddenly exclaims that she feels amazing and lunges at Akitiru for a hug, which she prevents. Akitiru quickly changes the subject, calling everyone's attention to discuss their plans for Mashiro's surprise party. 6 days before the party, Akitiru makes his first attempt to invite Mashiro by repeatedly ringing her doorbell. When she finally opens the door, she's met with Akitiru's enthusiastic grin as he starts telling her about the upcoming party. Before he can finish, Mashiro slams the door in his face. On Sunday, he tries again, but this time he realizes the doorbell isn't working. Undeterred, he decides to stuff her mailbox full of invitation letters instead. 4 days before the party during class, Akitiru tosses Mashiro a note saying he wants to talk to her. They begin passing notes back and forth, with Mashiro asking if what he did yesterday counts as bullying. Akitiru quickly denies it, insisting he just wanted to invite her to a dinner party. Mashiro isn't convinced, pointing out that her mailbox was overflowing with invitations, making it look more like a trash can. When he tries to ask for her Lime ID, she immediately refuses. Deciding to take a break, Akitiru vows to try again the next day. Unfortunately, Mashiro completely ignores and avoids him. On Wednesday, Akitiru catches her right as she steps out of the elevator and reminds her about the party, only for Mashiro to call him a stalker. The next day, he asks her again at school, but Mashiro scolds him for doing it in public. After classes, Akitiru and Iroha head out to shop for party supplies. While browsing, Iroha gets distracted by a stall offering free samples of sausages stuffed with melted cheese. She urges Akitiru to try one, but he gets embarrassed and refuses. The saleslady mistakes them for a couple and encourages him to take one for his girlfriend. When he refuses again, she insists that he should because his girlfriend looks sad. Not wanting to be embarrassed by Iroha, Akitiru reluctantly agrees to try it. But as he reaches for the sausage, Iroha pulls it away, teasing that if he really wants it, he should beg for it. Realizing she's only doing this to embarrass him, Akitiru decides it's best to play into her hand. When Iroha offers to feed it to him, he silently vows to get her back for this later. He eats the sausage and admits it tastes great, while the saleslady watches them fondly from her stall. As they move to a different aisle, Akatiru asks how Iroha can so easily say "I love you" to people. Iroha replies that it's easy when she genuinely cares about them, prompting Akatiru to quietly compare her to Mashiro, who struggles to be honest with her feelings. Iroha asks if Akatiru has managed to get Mashiro to accept their invitation. Akatiru admits he's a bit lost on what to do next. As Iroha reaches for a can of tomato sauce on a high shelf, she struggles to grab it while telling him that maybe he just isn't trying hard enough. She points out that when Akatiru truly wants something, he's usually insistent. After all, he managed to convince both Ozuma and Sumire to team up with HPW. Akatiru replies that it was a necessary move for their studio if they wanted bigger support. Iroha says that Akatiru has a knack for understanding what people really want and uses that to persuade them to try things they normally wouldn't. Akatiru explains that it's only because he saw Ozuma and Sumire wasting their talents that he wanted them to use their skills for something meaningful. Iroha smiles at his reasoning and tells him that his true talent lies in helping people bridge the gap between their wants and their dreams. She finally manages to grab the tomato sauce but loses her balance and nearly falls, only for Akatiru to catch her. Relieved, Iroha grins and remarks that another one of Akatiru's good points is making sure their group doesn't take their freedom for granted. She says that's probably why Ozuma trusts him so much. Akatiru thanks her for the kind words and feels determined to convince Mashiro to come to the party. Meanwhile, over at Mashiro's place, Mashiro tells herself there's no way Akatiru can make her go. On the day of the party, Akatiru can't find an opportunity to approach her during class. Instead, he checks in with Ozuma to make sure everything's ready. Ozuma confirms and jokingly tells him he owes him one for pulling everything together in under a week. Confidently, he leaves the classroom and Akatiru announces that their plan to get Mashiro to attend the party starts now. He catches up with her at the shoe lockers, where Mashiro immediately tells him to stop trying to invite her. Akatiru apologizes and promises not to pull any more tricks. Still, Mashiro doesn't seem convinced. He insists that he just wants to walk home together since they live in the same building. But when he looks at her, Mashiro is already sprinting away from him. Akatiru wonders how much she truly hates him. Even so, the plan depends on them walking home together, so he quickens his pace to keep up. Mashiro notices and starts running faster, demanding to know what he's planning to do as Akatiru chases after her. Akatiru feigns ignorance, claiming that he's only running home because he wants to. Mashiro, aware that he's lying, abruptly changes directions. Eventually, Mashiro stops by a riverbank, completely out of breath. She shouts at him to stop worrying about her, insisting that she doesn't fit in with established groups. She tells him to go and enjoy his own life without dragging her into it. Akatiru frowns and asks where she plans to go if she refuses to make any friends. He demands to know what the point of transferring schools is if she never intends to connect with anyone. He apologizes for the bathroom incident and says it's fine if she still hates him, but she should at least try to make some connections. Mashiro turns to argue but slips. Akatiru lunges forward to catch her, only for both of them to tumble into the river. Soaking wet, Akatiru tries not to look at her since her clothes are clinging to her body. Flustered, she tries to stand but trips again. Akatiru catches her, pulling her against him to steady her. Once they make it back to the shore, Akatiru teases that they now have a matching drowned rat look, making them look like a believable couple. Mashiro actually laughs for the first time, admitting it's the worst couple look imaginable. Sensing her lighter mood, Akatiru continues joking, saying maybe this is a god's way of blessing their fake relationship. Mashiro dryly replies that such a god deserves to die, and Akatiru tells her that if she keeps praying, maybe she'll start feeling better about herself. She admits that no amount of praying will suddenly make people who hate her start liking her. Curious, Akatiru asks why she's so stubborn even though he's trying to get along with her. Mashiro blurts out that it's because of the deal he made with her father, but quickly takes it back, saying she knows it isn't his fault. She adds that she genuinely hopes he doesn't hate her. Akatiru reassures her that no one actually hates her. Mashiro hesitates and confides that she's scared of not fitting in and of being ignored. Seeing she's about to talk herself down again, Akatiru gently tells her there's nothing wrong with feeling that way. He admits that he isn't exactly someone who stands out either. He often gets overlooked because he doesn't have any remarkable skills. Akatiru claims that he's just an ordinary person with an ordinary set of skills. His comment makes Mashiro protest, insisting that he isn't ordinary at all since he's the leader of the 5th Floor Alliance. Akatiru looks at her in surprise, wondering how she knows about his group. Mashiro quickly covers it up by saying her father often talks about the game he developed since it earned a lot of money. Akatiru corrects her, saying that all the earnings just go back into the game's development costs. Mashiro then remarks that he could easily be the most popular student in their class, but Akatiru reveals that no one actually knows he or the others are behind the hit game. She's surprised and asks if he's afraid of being made fun of. Akatiru says he just wants to stay humble about their success and not let the attention give him an inflated ego. Listening to him, Mashiro smiles and fondly calls him weird. Eventually, they return to their apartment building. Mashiro still refuses to attend the party, though she admits she's thankful for the invitation. As she walks toward her door, Akitiru asks if she can start treating him normally next week. She agrees but pauses when she notices her door is unlocked. They begin to think that someone might have broken in. Akitiru steps in front of her, offering to go inside first to make sure it's safe. Slowly, they enter the apartment together. Just as they're about to reach the main room, Akitiru mutters something strange under his breath, then pushes Mashiro gently forward as he swings the door open. Mashiro is greeted by a loud pop of confetti and cheers from the other residents of the 5th floor. Completely bewildered, Mashiro demands to know why everyone is inside her apartment. Akitiru sheepishly explains that this is actually his place. They'd put up a divider to make it look like his unit was the last one in the hall, so she'd think it was hers. Mashiro frowns and asks why they went so far when she doesn't even consider them her friends. Iroha chimes in that none of the tenants are really friends except Akitiru and Ozuma, though she adds she'd rather they were a couple. Sumire immediately jumps on the idea, imagining an entire romantic scenario between them, earning her a hit from Akitiru. Iroha continues, explaining that since they all live on the same floor, they naturally started doing things together. Mashiro guesses she means the game, surprising Iroha that she knows about it. Iroha clarifies that she isn't actually part of the team. Akitiru adds that it's fine if Mashiro doesn't think of them as her friends, she could just think of them as her fake boyfriend's friends for now. He mentions that there's one more member, Namako, who isn't present but is still an invaluable part of their group. Mashiro smiles at being included and finally decides to join the party. After the party, Iroha bursts into Akitiru's room and tries to hug him, but he immediately dodges. Getting serious, she praises him for successfully inviting Mashiro and tells him he's a really kind person. Iroha then thanks Akitiru for letting her be part of their group, without revealing that she's actually the voice actor for the 5th Floor Alliance's game. Iroha talks about her role as the secret voice actor for the 5th Floor Alliance. Even the other members don't know that she's been doing the voice acting, but she's still grateful to be included in their get-togethers as an outside participant. She's also happy that it was Akitiru who discovered and approached her in the first place. Akitiru decides to talk to Iroha about the past. In his story, Akitiru approached Ozuma and asked if he could show him his experiments. Ozuma agreed on the condition that Akitiru came over sometimes to check on them. Akitiru accepted, and that was how their friendship began. Not long after, Akitiru's parents left to work elsewhere, and he started living in the same building as Ozuma. One afternoon, Akitiru caught Ozuma studying the floor tiles. When he asked what Ozuma was doing, Ozuma claimed he was just playing with numbers in his head, using the tiles as his reference. Akitiru offered to let him stay at his place, but Ozuma declined, saying his sister would be arriving soon. Just as he said that, Iroha appeared, looking confused to see Ozuma outside their door. Ozuma explained that he had forgotten his keys and was waiting for her. Iroha then noticed Akitiru, prompting Ozuma to introduce him as his friend, neighbor, and classmate. Iroha let a surprised expression slip since she didn't expect Ozuma to have a friend. Akitiru introduced himself politely, and Iroha did the same. That was the first time Akitiru met Iroha. He remembered her as reserved and polite, nothing like the outspoken girl she was now. The next day, Akitiru brought up Iroha since Ozuma had never mentioned her, and she was rarely seen around the building. Just then, Otoi walked into the classroom, catching everyone's attention because she was believed to be suspended. Otoi walked up to Akitiru and Ozuma and told them she needed to speak to them. They agreed, and once they were in a more private spot, Otoi apologized and offered them candy. Akitiru pointed out that it was against school rules, which amused Otoi. She said they shouldn't be so uptight, especially towards someone who had been skipping school. Her words confused them, since they had assumed she was suspended. She felt a little disappointed by the rumors, since she had never done anything that would get her suspended. Ozuma suddenly asked if he could take one of the candies. As he plucked one from her hand, Akitiru reluctantly took one as well. Otoi asked if Iroha was Ozuma's sister and said she wanted to know what kind of girl she was. Ozuma struggled to answer, which surprised Akitiru since Ozuma was usually very direct. Otoi got impatient, saying it should have been an easy question. Akitiru reasoned that it was difficult for Ozuma because he didn't know the intent behind it. Seeing his point, Otoi revealed that Asagi had noticed Iroha seemed to be taking an interest in delinquents like them, so she wanted to know if Iroha fit that type. However, based on their reactions, Otoi guessed she was wrong and that Iroha was just a typical honor student. She admitted she had hoped they'd know Iroha's true personality. Akitiru asked if they planned to welcome her into their group, and Otoi admitted that if Iroha were to approach them, they would welcome her. She then left, and Akitiru asked Ozuma if he was okay, since the question should have been easy to answer. Ozuma admitted that he and Iroha didn't really talk much, so there wasn't much between them besides blood relation. Ozuma shared that the previous day had actually been the first time they had spoken in 2 months. Akitiru was shocked since it was the first time he had heard of siblings who lived together but barely talked. He asked if their parents ever brought it up, but Ozuma said they didn't since both of them were rarely home. Akitiru couldn't help but feel concerned about Ozuma's family situation. Wanting to help somehow, he asked Ozuma if he could hang out at his place after school to play some games. After school, Ozuma welcomed him in, and the first thing Akitiru noticed was that the living room had no television. Ozuma explained that there wasn't one because he spent most of his time in his room. They headed to his room, and Akitiru was greeted by a complete mess, with items scattered all over the floor. He told Ozuma to try cleaning up, but Ozuma said he liked it that way because he knew where everything was. He also claimed that living in clutter helped him come up with better ideas. He handed Ozuma his game console so he could hook it up. While Ozuma worked on it, Akitiru noticed that Ozuma had built his own PC. They started playing, and soon Akitiru heard Iroha enter the apartment. He excused himself, saying he needed to go to the bathroom, but in truth, he just wanted to learn more about Iroha. As he leaned closer to hear what Iroha was doing in her room, he noticed that it sounded like she was talking to someone. Just as he tried to make out the words, Iroha unexpectedly opened the door to step out, leaving Akitiru frozen awkwardly in front of her. She was about to scream, but Akitiru quickly covered her mouth and pulled her into her room, shutting the door behind them. He told her he would remove his hand if she promised not to scream. When she nodded, he let go, only for her to slap him. Iroha then realized the person she had hit was Akitiru, and he hurriedly tried to explain himself. However, Iroha had already decided he was a creep who snuck into people's homes to eavesdrop. She even wondered aloud if he had fallen in love with her at first sight and was stalking her. Akitiru quickly denied it, but before he could defend himself, Iroha's phone started ringing in his hand. She snatched it away to tell Asagi she would call her back later. Akitiru asked if she was trying to join a group of delinquents through Asagi, but Iroha snapped at him not to make baseless accusations. Akitiru insisted she shouldn't lie because he already knew about it. Iroha got irritated and told him it was none of his business, but Akitiru argued that he was just doing what was right because he was friends with Ozuma. Iroha fired back that being friends with her brother didn't make them close, since they were as good as strangers. Akitiru realized this was a difficult situation. He knew Ozuma already struggled at school and felt out of place because of his odd personality. It seemed like Iroha's actions might only cause more misunderstandings that could end up hurting Ozuma in the end. He tried again and asked if Iroha would like to share her problems with him. This only annoyed Iroha further, and she sarcastically said that her brother's friend kept pestering her and that she was troubled because she wanted him out of her room. Over the next few days, Akitiru decided to do some digging. Akitiru left school early, telling his teacher he had a fever. The heat was unbearable, so he stopped by a vending machine to grab some water. After rehydrating, he continued searching the area until he heard a girl singing along with a guitar. He immediately suspected that she was Asagi. As he approached, Asagi noticed his school uniform and asked if he was playing hooky. Akitiru grumbled that he didn't need to be lectured by a middle schooler who was obviously skipping school herself. Asagi was taken aback that he knew her and accused him of being a stalker. Akitiru quickly clarified that he was only looking for her because he was friends with Ozuma. Recognizing the name, Asagi realized he must have been the same person Iroha complained about. Akitiru hurriedly tried to introduce himself properly so she would stop calling him a creep, but Asagi just decided to call him her upperclassman. Before he could continue explaining, the intense heat overwhelmed him. His vision faded and he collapsed right in front of her. Akitiru remembers that day vividly. It was one of the hottest of the year. He tells Iroha that Asagi called Otoi for help, and thanks to them, he turned out fine. Iroha listens and accuses Akitiru of using Otoi's lap as a pillow while he was passed out. Akitiru admits it but insists it was Otoi who put his head there, and that they ended up talking about a lot of things afterward. He adds that all the trouble was worth it because their entire group has become close friends, even if they still don't know that Iroha is the voice actor behind their game. Returning to the story, Akitiru sat down with both Asagi and Iroha. He asked Asagi to stop being a delinquent, reasoning that it might do her some good to try living a normal student life for once. Iroha argued that Akitiru was asking too much from her because he was implying tearing her away from her current group. Akitiru calmly explained that he wasn't trying to tear her away at all. He just wanted her to consider her choices. Even so, Iroha continued to insult him, saying he didn't understand how people felt. Trying to put things into perspective, Akitiru said he was certain Asagi wanted more than just hanging out with friends, pointing out that she had a real passion for music. Then he asked what Iroha wanted to do. Iroha said it didn't really matter. Akitiru insisted that it did matter. Whether she wanted friends or wanted to pursue music, it was up to her to decide. When Akitiru tried to press the question, Asagi stepped in and told him he was being too harsh. Asagi said that Iroha wasn't trying to become a musician at all and that Akitiru shouldn't push her. Iroha looked shocked, not realizing Asagi could see right through her. Asagi explained that, as someone in the music scene, it was obvious Iroha wasn't aiming to perform and that she was simply a fan of music. Iroha admitted that Asagi's observation was true but confessed she deeply admired Asagi. Akitiru misinterpreted this and wondered if they were secretly dating. Iroha immediately denied it, saying she only admired how brave and confident Asagi was for doing what she loved. Akitiru still didn't understand why Iroha needed to hang around Asagi and Otoi to be like that. Seeing Iroha struggle, Asagi revealed the truth, that Iroha wasn't allowed to have freedom or hobbies at home. Akitiru was confused. While he knew their apartment didn't have a TV, Iroha still had access to the internet and other leisure. Asagi explained that even so, Iroha wasn't allowed to have fun, and she had been obedient all this time. Akitiru asked if her current actions counted as betraying her mother's trust. Iroha quietly confirmed it but admitted she didn't know what she really wanted. Akitiru took a moment to think. Iroha clearly lacked the freedom to pursue her passions or even explore them, unlike Asagi and Ozuma, who could do whatever they wanted. With a new sense of determination, Akitiru decided that he would help everyone find a place where they could freely chase their dreams while staying in school so that no one would ever label the girls as a bad crowd again. Asagi complained that Akitiru was meddling and insisted they didn't need his help. But Akitiru stood firm, saying he would help them whether they liked it or not because it would ultimately benefit both him and Ozuma. Asagi asked what he was planning, but Akitiru admitted that he had no idea yet. Still, he reassured them that he would find a way. After paying for his share of the meal, Akitiru left already deep in thought about how to make everyone happy. He wondered what he could do with people who had talent in programming and music. Suddenly, inspiration struck. He visited Ozuma and said they should make a game together. Ozuma was surprised but listened as Akitiru explained his idea in detail. Akitiru believed that with Ozuma handling the programming, everything would go smoothly. What he didn't realize was how much research Ozuma had to do to make the code work. Meanwhile, Akitiru focused on developing the characters, story, and initial artwork. For the time being, they used public domain music just to test how the project would come together. During one of their sessions, Ozuma admitted that he enjoyed creating things with Akitiru. He explained that while he had always tinkered and experimented alone, it felt fulfilling to finally build something alongside someone else. He also found it exciting that their project would soon be available for the world to play. Akitiru agreed and said he already knew the perfect people to test the game on, explaining that he would have Ozuma's sister, Iroha, and Asagi play it. They invited Asagi and Iroha over to test play their game. At first, Asagi was more concerned about the state of the room. However, Asagi seemed to really enjoy it, and even Iroha's expression showed genuine interest. When they sat down to discuss the game, Asagi said it was very mid. She complained that the music sounded cheap, and that the gameplay was the only thing that made it enjoyable. Akitiru mentioned that gameplay is the true charm of any game. He explained that simple games like rock, paper, scissors are great because they are complete, the rules are simple, and the goal to win is clear. He added that this is also the formula for a good video game. He continued that they could create something fun even with a small budget. He then talked about his dream to make such games and how he was lucky to have Ozuma, who had a talent for programming. However, he said their problem was the music since they used free ones. He wanted something original and high quality for the game. Asagi grew suspicious and Akitiru asked if they were interested in helping with the game's development. Iroha was shocked to be included, but Akitiru reassured her that since there was a lot to be done, her involvement wouldn't be a problem. Asagi admitted she was intrigued, but didn't want to betray Otoi's kindness. However, Akitiru had already contacted Otoi and received her permission. A glimmer appeared in Asagi's eyes as she encouraged Iroha to join them, saying that it would mean she wouldn't have to become a delinquent. She added that they could leave behind their boring lives if they joined Akitiru. To everyone's disappointment, Iroha declined the offer. She apologized to Asagi for dragging her into her problems and promised not to ask her to include her in the delinquent group again. She said she would still support Asagi's performances and then excuse herself so the others could continue their meeting. Akitiru decided to go after her and eventually found her at a nearby park. As he approached, he heard her talking to herself, her voice shifting as if she were speaking to more than one person with different personalities. She was debating with herself about how the game development idea sounded good, but she didn't know how to fit in. Unlike Asagi, who had a clear talent for music and could easily fit herself into anything she wanted to do, Iroha felt lost. During the meeting, she noticed how genuinely intrigued Asagi looked while playing the game. Her other voice asked what her own talents were, and Iroha admitted that she had none. She deeply envied Asagi and wished she could be like her. Another voice teased her, calling her a wannabe. As Akitiru got closer, he began hearing more of the conversation and was amazed at the variety of voices and personalities she portrayed. He ended up right in front of her, blurting out his amazement. Iroha noticed him and immediately hid behind the bench, embarrassed that he had caught her. Akitiru told her not to worry since he wasn't freaked out, but Iroha accused him of lying. He admitted that he was surprised at first but was more impressed with her acting. She complained that he shouldn't have lied because now she would continue to feel embarrassed about it. He promised that he wouldn't tell anyone about her habit, but Iroha still glared at him suspiciously. She asked if he planned to blackmail her, and Akitiru promised that he wouldn't. Eventually, she agreed to talk with him, and Akitiru asked about her one-woman act. He told her how he initially thought he was hearing 3 different people, only to realize it was just her once he got close enough. He reassured her that it was incredible how she could shift between voices and personalities so naturally. She thanked him for the compliment and grew shy when he said he had become a fan of hers. She explained that it was just a habit she picked up when she was bored after watching anime and cartoons. She found the characters cute and started mimicking their voices. However, her mother wasn't fond of the hobby. Her mother had caught her, then asked Iroha to stop doing voices and to focus only on studying. Iroha admitted that she never asked her mother why it upset her, but seeing her expression made her feel guilty. When their television was eventually banned, she grew bored and started creating her own characters and stories, acting them out in secret. She soon realized that she didn't have a talent for creating original stories, so she decided to base her characters on the people she had met in her life. Akitiru understood then why her characters sounded so stereotypical, but he still praised her for being able to perform her act without a script. Iroha asked if Akitiru had any background in drama, but he denied knowing anything about it. However, he revealed that his mother was a makeup artist and that he used to tag along on several of her projects. Because of that, you could tell that Iroha was exceptionally good. Iroha felt shy being praised, but Akitiru continued, saying she had a natural talent for seeing the depth in people's personalities. However, he knew that Iroha would never use her talents because she feared betraying her mother. He then asked why things seemed strained between her and Ozuma. Iroha admitted that she felt Ozuma didn't want anything to do with her. Akitiru guessed that she was waiting for someone to save and change her so she could be free. Iroha looked sad but admitted that he was right. Akitiru suddenly told her to trust him, promising that he would be the one to change her and drag her into doing something fun. Iroha was hesitant at first, but Akitiru asked if she enjoyed portraying different characters. Iroha admitted that it was all she had ever done, though she wasn't sure if it really meant anything. Akitiru told her that this was exactly the path an actor should follow. In that moment, Iroha realized what she wanted, and that was to become an actor. Akitiru urged her once more to join their group, assuring her that they would take precautions so her mother wouldn't find out. Iroha asked why he was trying so hard for her, and Akitiru simply said he was doing it for Ozuma's sake. Iroha agreed to join, but only if Akitiru would call her Iroha without any honorifics. A week later, he invited her to his apartment. Iroha immediately accused him of only wanting her body, saying it was suspicious for him to call her over just a week after agreeing to work for him. Akitiru argued that things like that don't happen anymore. To make Iroha feel more comfortable, he told her that he wouldn't lock the door and that she was free to keep her phone with her in case she wanted to report him. Iroha decided to enter, but when he offered her a drink, she refused, saying she didn't want to risk him slipping something into it. She noticed several textbooks about acting. Akitiru explained that he bought them because he didn't want her to spend her own money. He also said it was safer to keep them at his place so her mother wouldn't find out. He insisted that parents always manage to find things, especially mothers. Iroha suspected that this was just an excuse to have her come over regularly, but apologized and acknowledged that he was genuinely trying to help. Soon, Akitiru created a training schedule for her to improve her skills. They began with vocal exercises and watched acting lessons online. They also watched movies together and shared their thoughts afterward. Iroha even started practicing dubbing anime by muting the sound and reciting the lines herself. One day, Otoy invited Akitiru and Iroha to her place, announcing that her studio was finally ready. She led them to her family's old storehouse, which she had transformed into a voice studio for her delinquent friends so they could do something productive. Akitiru was amazed at how far she had gone, but Otoy told him that he was partly responsible for inspiring her. Akitiru felt honored and wanted to add an honorific to her name since they could now record for free thanks to her. Iroha asked if she could step inside the recording booth, to which Otoy agreed. Otoy turned to Akitiru and asked how he planned to find the rest of the voice actors. Akitiru smirked and said that Iroha could handle all the voices herself. Otoy found that hard to believe since the game had male characters too, but Akitiru assured her that Iroha was more than capable. Iroha pulled the script from her bag and signaled to Akitiru that she was ready to record. Otoy watched from the window, excited to see just how good Iroha was. By the time they finished recording, it was already evening. Otoy was surprised at how she managed to record every character perfectly. Akitiru gave her a smug look, saying that he had practically raised her since he was her producer and manager, though he admitted that Iroha had the talent from the very start. One day after they watched a movie, Iroha was gushing over one of the actors, making Akitiru tease her for having a soft spot for handsome guys. Iroha explained that it wasn't really about his looks but his boyish behavior that made her excited. Akitiru was surprised that girls found that kind of trait charming, which led Iroha to argue that his perspective on what girls liked was outdated. Akitiru worried that she might be angry with him, but Iroha teased that she would just give him the cold shoulder, so she warned him not to make her angry. She then turned shy and thanked Akitiru, explaining that she was starting to understand why Ozuma liked hanging around him so much. Apparently, Ozuma had told her that Akitiru was like a light shining down on him, and Iroha felt that a star perfectly described what he was to them. Akitiru felt touched until Iroha turned it into a gag by saying that his last name kind of sounded like the word star. She then mentioned that she had recently spoken to Ozuma. It looked like he was really enjoying working on the game. Iroha explained that Ozuma rarely talked to anyone in the family and spent most of his time in his room tinkering with machines. She shared that this was the first time he genuinely seemed happy doing something. Iroha believed that a big reason for that was Akitiru's involvement in his life. Though Akitiru only saw himself as Ozuma's friend, it was something Ozuma had wanted for a long time. Akitiru then handed Iroha a present. When she opened it, she found a headset inside. He also gave her a spare key to his place, so she could come over anytime to listen to music or watch anime and movies. She felt deeply grateful to Akitiru that day since she finally had a place where she could truly be herself. In the present, Iroha fondly looks at the key that was given to her, but Akitiru complains about how she steals things. Iroha argues that he gave her permission, but Akitiru says he wouldn't have if he'd known she would become such a pain to have around. Iroha teases that Akitiru is in love with her, but Akitiru corrects her, saying he loves her talent. He tells her that she is undoubtedly a genius, which makes Iroha feel warm inside. Akitiru warns her not to get a big head, and she playfully complains that she needs praise to grow. He then asks if the situation at her home has changed, but Iroha says that if it had, she wouldn't be in his apartment. She thanks him again, saying that she owes who she is now to him. Akitiru, however, says that Iroha wouldn't have eventually caught someone's eye even without his help. He cites Asagi as an example since she was scouted shortly after they made their first game and later moved to the US to pursue music under a label. Iroha says that Asagi is grateful to him since she still works under him. Iroha complains that he should just accept everyone's gratitude. Akitiru figures that the reason she came over is to make him realize everyone is thankful for him and calls her a meddlesome junior. When Akitiru looks up at the sky, Iroha decides to hug him from behind. He admits that the hug is comfortable. Iroha then confesses that she wants to be more than just his friend's younger sister, but Akitiru tells her that she shouldn't think they are that close. Iroha tries to hide her disappointment, but Akitiru realizes that things need to change because of Mashiro's addition to their group. He realizes that he needs to be friends with all of them, so he invites Iroha to go shopping with everyone, saying that they should all be friends. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss new episodes every week.